Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Live with Sara and Tasha. I'm Sara, the founder and CEO here at Live Well Exercise Clinic, joined by my lovely sidekick, friend through thick and thin, beautiful neighbor, and work wife.
Well, thank you, Sara.
I know, I really like the intro. I really try to just take it up a notch each time.
It might take the whole call next time. I am Tasha McRae. I'm our VP of Brand and Culture here at Live Well. And Sara and I are the original clinical exercise physiologists and health coaches at Live Well. And we're just really excited that you've decided to join us today. We host these calls to share the power of exercise and behavior change and help you live your life to the fullest.
And of course, for those of you who are joining us live, we really like to take that time at the end of our discussion where you are welcome to stay on for a live chat, Q&A, to talk all things about our topic. But I also want to welcome today a very special participant who became even more special in our eyes last week, Jonathan Shiplak, who is here on our call. And last week, we had the privilege of hosting a franchise conference where all of our locations could come together. Now, we didn't ask everybody to travel in from across Canada. People could choose virtually or in person. Jonathan Shiplak, he graced us with his presence, and he won a very special award at our conference for CEP of the Year. So just a round of applause for Jonathan Shiplak. There it is. There it is.
You know, Jonathan, only the very best. The coveted Live Well Circle Award. So if anybody's watching the replay of this and you live in Regina or you know somebody who lives in Regina, send them over to John, who will take, I promise you, the very best care of them. So cheers, John. I don't know. Today, very special edition. Oh no, my background's messing it up. Very special edition. We're talking about alcohol and its place in a healthy diet. Now you might be thinking, Tasha, it's only noon where you are. Is it appropriate? I don't know. I just saw somebody else lift their glass. Who knows what have been in these coffee mugs all along? This wine glass is full of hibiscus tea, not red wine. I just thought I'd freak Sara out and have her think that I was sitting here drinking while we were putting this on. So
I do have to share a quick story then, Tasha.
Okay, go ahead.
Back way back in my cardiac rehab days. So probably about 17, 18 years ago now, working in the hospital in a cardiac rehab program. And, you know, it was about a 12-week program. So at the end of, on somebody's last day, we would give them a little certificate. You remember that, Tasha? We'd give them the little reward. Oh, I see you're just going ahead and drinking during my story. That's perfect. It's hibiscus tea. That's okay. And on this gentleman's last day in the cardiac rehab program, he brought 2 6-packs of beer to his exercise class.
Okay.
And it was first thing in the morning, like the early exercise, which I think, Tash, did we start at 7 or something? Yeah.
Yes.
And he, before me and Corinne, who was our nurse at the time working in the program, could even get into the gym, they'd all cracked her open. So now we're here in the hospital with 12 people in cardiac rehab drinking out of Budweiser cans. And we were fearing for our jobs, for our livelihoods, for everything.
I need to clarify, you joined in on this drinking?
No, we walked in and they had all cracked their cans. Oh, they were drinking. This was a celebration. And so as we feared for our jobs, because there was patients drinking alcohol in the hospital, which I'm pretty sure is somewhere not allowed in some rules, They all then broke into laughter as the joke was on us, and there was only water in the beer cans. In fact, the man who brought them owned a canning business, and he had filled them with water. So, similar to your hibiscus tea that you are drinking, not actually alcohol, I too have been in a situation where I have feared the consumption of alcohol, yet it was water. So, just thought I'd share that story.
I love it. I love it. Another cardiac rehab story, could be a live well story as well. This actual one did come out of cardiac rehab. Was somebody bringing me an article, waving it frantically in the air. Tasha, did you read this? It was a major news publication. 16 beer a day decreases risk of prostate cancer. I guess I'm going to go ahead and drink however much I want, which leads us into sort of the first topic we wanted to talk about today as I drink my hibiscus tea out of my wine glass, is the possible health benefits of alcohol. You see it all over the news. It is big media every time a research study comes out that suggests that potentially we should be drinking. So remember, the number one thing to do when you're reading any research story is to check who the funder was. You know, if Budweiser or J-Lore or whoever a local winery funded the study, you may want to just look a little deeper into the evidence. But we do know that having a drink a day actually might reduce your risk of heart disease and stroke and possibly diabetes, though that evidence isn't really certain. Though you may see an increase in or an improvement in one area, the alcohol may affect other areas like your liver, and so kind of end up sort of balancing out the benefit that you got in one area versus the detriment that you're getting in another. And it's really not clear if alcohol benefits everyone who drinks it. And so, if we're looking at a man, let's say, who doesn't have a history of alcohol addiction, but he's at increased risk of heart disease, potentially a glass of red wine a day might be beneficial for that person. But the recommendation is a little bit trickier when we're looking at women because alcohol consumption has been shown to have some breast cancer risk. So, the beneficial effect, there's definitely no benefit to drinking a lot, 16 beer, whether your prostate makes it or not, your liver won't. So, that it might depend on that type of alcohol. So yes, you've all heard the red wine that is kind of known to be a healthier type of alcohol. That's just because of the antioxidants that may be coming from the grape. You could always eat the grapes. But really the evidence right now kind of supports that if you're not a drinker, there's no reason to start drinking for health benefit. You can take other steps that will help reduce your cardiovascular risk, that will help you decrease the risk of stroke, the risk of diabetes. Exercise, that's one of those things, if that's not something you were aware of. And it may be a safer way to do it. But if you are somebody, sorry, my heater just kicked on, bear with me. I like to stay warm, but it's quite a noise in the background. But I understand some people enjoy drinking and they enjoy the taste, they enjoy the social aspect. You could always be a faker like me, go for the placebo effect. If you're drinking it out of a stemmed glass, even if it's not alcohol, sometimes it still feels festive. But if you enjoy the taste, you enjoy a drink, go ahead and have one. Just really check in on the amounts, which kind of leads me to, what do you think of my pour size here, Sara?
I'm going to say that's a pretty generous glass you've got there, Tasha.
I thought it was just one kind of glass here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I think it's like at least 9 ounces. More, maybe?
I would say it's probably more.
Yeah. Yeah, 12 ounces we'll go with. And I will back you up, Tasha, that Tasha is a lot of fun and a great time, whether she has a little drink of wine or not. She's always bringing fun at any social event. So there you go. She doesn't even need to drink. Okay, so
sometimes people go, wow, she must be drunk. She's out there
no,
and she's dancing and she's singing and she must have had a lot to drink. This is a real story. This has happened to me. And I'm like, nope, didn't have a drop. That's just my natural exuberance coming through.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about drinking guidelines. John, you're right, drunk on joy. So the Canadian low risk drinking guidelines recommend no more than 2 drinks a day, to a maximum of 10 per week for women, and 3 drinks a day to a maximum of 15 a week for men. So 2 a day for women up to a maximum of 10, 3 a day for men up to a maximum of 15. I personally just want to interject here and call for equality, because I don't believe that men should have greater privileges and rights than women, but I will also just concede to the data and the evidence and know that these recommendations come from a good solid place of evidence and research, but at the same time I scream equality.
So I have been asked before, why is that in clinic? And it's just that women tend to be a little bit smaller than men. And we do tend to metabolize alcohol differently than men. And that's why basically we could end up being drunk off of less.
Makes sense. And even though there's kind of, 2 or 3 drinks a day, the reason why there's also a total is that there is a recommendation to plan exclusive non-drinking days in your week. And that just also helps us to avoid developing a habit that may not supplement our better health. These guidelines are a little bit more generous than our friends to the south, where the Center of Disease Control in the US actually recommends 2 drinks a day for men and only 1 for women. So proud to be Canadian. We just get that little bit more, I guess. But I want to be really clear that both of these recommendations do not suggest that you should start drinking for health benefit. And I have heard this before, I need to force myself to now consume all of these drinks. But to ensure that if you are, that you stick to these lower risk amounts. And remember, very importantly, that if you are looking to be managing your weight in any way, that drinking your calories is always not a great strategy. I have learned that from one of my favorite drinks is a sangria, one of the highest types of calorie drinks with alcohol that you could probably find, and but the slushiness and the fruit in it, but there's fruit. Tasha, there's fruit in a sangria, and I just want to note that here in front of everybody, but they are very high calorie. So I minimize the sangria in my diet now, Tasha. Have you noticed?
I have.
Thank
and you. I just want to start off by, I know she's getting very excited here, folks, but I will vouch for her. She doesn't have a problem.
No.
I do have a member who, every time she sees me, she talks about the Bellini, because I'm going to say at least 8 years ago, I shared with her that I had learned what a Bellini at a certain restaurant that brought the Bellini into favor, starts with an M, that I had discovered what the calorie count was on that Bellini, and I shared that with her. And both of us, shocked and horrified, have taken the Bellini off of our order list. And so every time she sees me, she goes, every time I go to that restaurant and I think that would be a fun slushy drink, I think of you. And really, that's what I want. Thinking of me and going, darn her, she's really ruined this for me.
That's not true. You always bring joy. So, but when we use this word drink, how do we actually kind of substantiate what size that is? Because as Tasha showed, she has a glass, not really sure how much in it, but it's a drink, it's a glass. So let's bring this into the context of measurement. So we're going to break it out into beer, spirits, and wine. And so beer is about 12 fluid ounces. So, that's what, a cup and a half of beer.
I don't drink beer, but I believe it's a can. Is it like a regular sized can? Yeah, I'm getting the
there we go.
Up.
Awesome.
One regular size can.
There you go. Spirits, it's about 1.5 ounces. So 1.5 shots, we could say. And for wine, it is a 5-ounce glass. Good job, Cindy. I like that. Not the 14-ounce glass that Tasha is consuming live here on our episode. It is hibiscus tea. In case anyone is just tuning in now, it is hibiscus tea.
And, there's nothing more exciting than a wife who tells you that she's watching your pour. My husband really appreciates when I do that, but he a little free pour, and he enjoys a scotch or a whiskey on ice. And he tells me that ice cube displacement, we have these very big ice cubes, is what creates this greater volume I'm seeing. Then we went to a restaurant where he was poured the amount, obviously, and he said, "Why is this so small?" So, again, sometimes going out for a restaurant and asking for the 6-ounce glass or whatever. Do you notice that there's never a 5-ounce glass of wine at a restaurant?
Yes.
They're always giving you more than you need, including on your plate. But it's a good practice if you are used to free pouring, to actually measure and to look at what that looks like in your glass, what that looks like with your ice cube displacement, so you can start to get a true picture, because you might be getting 2-for-1 drinks, right? You think, I only had 2 glasses, when in fact you had 4. So that's something to watch out for. And then Sara already mentioned the bit about empty calories. And a lot of people we talk to at Live Well are looking to manage their weight. We know that managing our weight as we age is really important. John sent me a great article, John Green, thank you. New research coming out about metabolism, little bit upsetting, that between the ages of 20 to 60, there's actually no change in human metabolism, says this new research. So if between the ages of 20 to 60, you gained weight, you can blame that on your consumption of food and or alcohol. So thank you, John. That was very sobering. So, the average glass of wine or light beer has about 100 calories. And so, if you're thinking about how many of those drinks you're having in a week, 7 drinks in a week could really add up. That could, 700 calories in a week. So if you were doing that, technically it would take you about 5 weeks to gain a pound. There's 3,500 calories in a pound. The body isn't that clean on math. Weight gain isn't a simple math equation, but it does sort of help us visualize and understand how the empty calories from alcohol, because most alcohol has no nutritional value, can actually lead to us gaining weight over time. So, a couple of beers a day can easily add 300 calories to your daily diet. And like Sara said, those sweeter things like margaritas and bellinis, they can whop 300 calories easy per glass. So, the other thing we know about the way we metabolize alcohol is it tends to contribute to what's called abdominal adiposity, which is belly fat. And that has actually more dangerous health complications or implications than if you were just, let's say, carrying weight around your hips, for example. But it does seem that, that they call it the beer belly, right? So it does seem that alcohol does tend to settle around our midsection, which is problematic. So the other thing that's kind of interesting, anybody noticed that you have a drink, suddenly the inhibitions drop, even if it's one? Next thing you know, you're having chocolate with the wine or chips with your beer or nuts or something like that. Alcohol seems to stimulate our appetite, at least in the short term. So, if you're at a party in a social event where there's lots of tempting food around, you might find that drinking actually also leads to you consuming more food at that particular event. So, it's hard enough to avoid fatty and sugary food when we're sober, and not that, you might just have a glass, but it just takes that little inhibition out that may have led you to say, no, I'm not going to have that. I'll choose the carrot sticks instead. So it makes it become a little bit more difficult. So if you are somebody who is trying to lose weight or is really working to maintain your weight, it's really important not only to watch what you eat, but also to watch what you drink. And obviously that extends beyond simply alcohol. We have to look at the sugary beverages outside, pop, specialty coffees, things like that we might be consuming. But alcohol is part of that picture that we have to think about.
Awesome. Well, those are your tips this week to help you drink well and to live well. We thank you for joining us this week on Sara and Tasha Live, and we both wish you sweat and smiles all week long. We'll end with our joy hands. Thank you everyone for coming today.